Hi, I want to talk a little bit about the shaping machine and preforms. Probably the first thing to think about is the thickness of your material. It needs to be wider than the wheel. If it's not wider than the wheel, then it's not going to cut completely and you'll end up with work that is not proper. For example, this was my first piece that I cut, and it was too narrow, and so I ended up with something that was unusable. So make sure that your material thickness is thicker than your wheel. Once you've done that, and once you've made sure that your material is thicker than the wheel, then it's time to decide on what size you want to make your material. In my case, I'm doing earplugs. So what I will do normally is I will take, in this case I have a piece of pink manganium calcite, and I will see how big my piece is. You'll notice here that I overhang, so I'll have a flat spot. So if I go down, that barely fits. So I'm going to use that in this case for my outside, what I would call the slop area. And then I'll go down one size from that. And I will make what my actual dimension of my piece will be. Once you do that, you would mark the center of your workpiece. And in my case, I tend not to bust out the ruler. I tend to mark close to center and then let the slop take care of the amount that I might be off center. At this point, you would take it down to the PT8 trim saw is what I use, and then you would start cutting away on your form. Once you've done that, then you can take your piece of stock and install it in the phenolic pins, making sure that your X is in the center. Some other options for you are multiples. In this case, this is Moroccan seam agate, and I might choose to do an oblong earplug. And in that case, I will do the same thing. I will mark where the plug is. I will mark the center. And on the next piece, I will mark where the plug is. And I will mark the center. And in this case, I'm not going to mark the outside with slop. I'm just going to leave a decent amount of space on the outside. So when I cut with my trim saw, I will probably cut along these lines, just leaving extra space, because it is rare that you can get a piece lined up right on the center of those phenolic pins. And if you're off a little bit and you've cut your preform too close, you're going to end up with a problem with a flat spot. Okay, next option I want to talk about is taking just a piece of material. In this case, I've got a piece of Lapidary, and I would make a nice big round earplug with this. However, in this case, I'm going to be one step lazier, and I am just going to mark the center of the soap shape. Then I will put the soap shape X and line it up with the phenolic pins and tighten it in place and make sure it's tight so it doesn't slip. And then I will grind, and I will make this the maximum capacity that I can. So I'm not going to leave or cut any slop off. I'm going to put this on the machine, centered. I'm going to turn the machine on, start to lower the head until I get a round surface the whole way around without flat spots. Okay, something else I should talk about is fractures. If you have fractures in your product, in this case, this has a nice fracture going through right where I wanted to put a preform. The preform is thick enough, but that fracture could bust when it's in the wheel, and nobody wants that. So if you have fractures, move where you want your workpiece, change the change what shape you're going to do, or discard the rock, but you don't want to have a piece of rock on the shaping machine that's got a fracture on it. It's grinding away, and then all of a sudden a piece of it flies off. Okay, last thing I want to talk about is on the shaping machine. You know, I've shown that you can use rounded pieces and flat pieces, and but a lot of times what I like to do is prep a decent amount of material first. So what I will do is I will get a thick piece of stock that's been through the slab saw, and then I will put it into the PT8 trim saw, and I will cut the stock to a certain width. In this case, I did not cut the whole way through the product. I wanted to show you kind of my thought process on this. So I would go in and I would finish this cut on the PT8, and then I would go in and I would measure these off for the thickness that I need, mark them, and then I would cut these on the PT8, and then I end up with some really nice sister pieces that I can use for shapes that are paired or not one-offs, or if I just want to increase my throughput, I try to make a wide variety of different shapes. I try to make a wide variety of different cuts so that I can keep the shaping machine operational for as long as possible. For me, it doesn't make a lot of sense to cut one piece, then go downstairs, put it on the PT8 and trim off the excess and smooth things out, and then go cut another piece. For me, I would rather cut 20 pieces and then run 20 pieces all at once on the SM1, the shaping machine, and then take it back down to the production trim saw and trim and smooth the edges, and then it's ready for tumbler. Just to give you kind of an idea of some of the stuff that I do in a single run. These are all body jewelry pieces, and I have a different variety of material that's in here. I've got some Moroccan seam agate, some manganocalcite, some lapis, some Paul Bunyan agate, and this was all done on the same wheel. I simply adjusted the scale. And some of these plugs are calibrated to an exact size for user specification. Some of them are just a freeform, made them as large as I could. Again, the shaping machine has a lot of options that you can use, and if you really want to get accurate with what you're going to cut, I suggest getting a set of micrometers and measuring the height of your stop guard and stop plate against the wheel, and then still after that run a test piece, because you will almost always end up making a small adjustment so that you get exactly the calibrated size that the user requires. If we go back to this piece here, you can see this is half of a it's half of an earplug or body jewelry. So it's not useful other than to show you that this is kind of what you end up with on both sides when it's done. So you take this down to the trim saw, you cut along the depression here and remove that excess, and then you can take the side of the trim saw and you can smooth out the edges, because you want this stuff to be nice and smooth, obviously. And then you are done. So you can really get a lot of product pushed out. Unfortunately, the only thing I have to show you right now are the pieces of body jewelry, but the same thing applies for spheres, for rondelle beads, eggs, anything like that. So I hope this video helps and explains a little bit. Thanks for listening to me. And if you have any questions, please ask. We're here to help. Thanks.